the true advantage of having a newsletter is you control the messaging and you control the delivery to a point. So what you want to pay attention to is the click rate. So you want to put stuff in there that encourages people to click. You tease them and you give them, but you got to give them enough information where they don't have to click off. They're like, I got it. But you want to encourage them to click off too.
You're watching Marketing Misfits with Norm Farrar and Kevin King.
Hey, Norm, remember a couple years ago I said I was going to start a newsletter? Remember when we talked about that?
Yeah, I told you were crazy. Nobody reads them.
Yeah, my wife, ex-wife, let me emphasize that, said the same thing. Maybe it should be ex-partner now. I don't know, but she said the same thing. But do you realize that this year, that newsletter, less than 2 years since starting it, will generate over $500,000 profit in my pocket?
And none of that's coming to me. Thank you, Kevin.
That's right, but you have a newsletter too, and it's starting to pick up some steam. And I think anybody that's listening to this, if they're not doing a newsletter, they may want to rethink that. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Right. No, let's get into it.
So, I had a newsletter back before newsletters were cool. I had a newsletter back in the late 90s, actually. I think I've told you maybe this story over cigars one time, but for the audience that hasn't heard it, back in the late 90s, Mark and I had a company and we were dealing with pretty women. We had like baseball cards and calendars and all kinds of different collectibles and stuff, dealing with like bikini models and things like that. And we needed a way to actually reach the audience. So what we did is we were advertising in all the traditional direct mail. This is before the internet was a hot thing, direct mail things back then. And then we started promoting this newsletter and said, hey, top of funnel, we didn't know funnels existed. Nobody was talking about that back then. Come to our website and sign up for this newsletter. And every day, 7 days a week, we would send out a newsletter to our users. We ended up getting up to about 250,000 people that were getting this every single day. And in that newsletter would be a short little text-based summary, no images, just a short, there's no HTML email or anything back then. And it'd be like 5 headlines, almost like if you're familiar with Drudge Report or something like that in these states, just 5 little headlines about anything to do with pretty girls. So it could be Farrah Fawcett did this, or Vanna White on the Wheel of Fortune did this, or Hugh Hefner did this, or the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. And then they would click through, and then we have a photo of the day. And it would say something like, see today's, see Julie, today's featured model or whatever. They would click through, and they would take them to a nicely designed HTML website that would have a photo of the girl, a little bio about her. We had a joke section. We had a game section. We had a trivia section, a few other little sections on there, plus these 5 headlines that were clickable hot links that would go off to stories on other sites. And I literally had, back then, there was no AI or no tools to aggregate this stuff. So I had 2 guys, one in Houston, he was in a wheelchair, so it was a really good job for him, and another guy in LA. And every day they would go and find articles and post them. We had this back end database. There wasn't Google Sheets or anything like that back then. And they would post these links in there, and they'd find 30 or 40 stories a day. And every night before midnight, no matter where I was in the world, I remember being in an island in Honduras and I had a satellite phone, one of those big honking satellite phones, because there's no internet in the hotel back then. And I had to connect to it, turn off all my images on my browser, and connect at like 300 bits per second or whatever that slow ass rate was on a modem to actually log in, look at these stories, and approve 5 of them that would go out in the email starting at midnight that night. People could choose the time of day they got the email, but that grew that list so big. We got on Howard Stern when he was on public radio before satellite. We got, we were selling.
Hold it. So you went on Howard Stern.
I personally did. Our models did, but I was in the green room with them there. Someone had to escort them, and make sure Howard didn't do any crazy stuff.
Well, I was just wondering if they were going to rate you, with the laser point,
Well, they did. Coincidentally, we had one of our top models was from your neck of the woods, from Toronto. Her name is Katia Corvo. You can actually go to YouTube and look this up. Go look up Katia Corvo, Corriveau, spelled the French way, and Howard Stern. You can see the video because E! Entertainment Television back then filmed all of his stuff. And you can see where she went on the show. They tried to get her to, Howard's, he's a pretty girl on the show. He tries to get them naked, tried to get her naked, and she refused to do it, but she got in her underwear if they would get in their underwear. It's a really funny. So she got everybody in the studio to get in their underwear. It's really funny. But at the end of that, they're promoting our website, and our servers would blow up. We would have someone standing at our facility to flip the switch. We had one of those remote switches to restart the server, and it was crazy. But we get tons of leads, and we dealt with Bomus, who ended up being one of the founders of that. Went off and started Wikipedia, and it just blew up, and we sold tons of products off it. But what happened is around 2001, 2002, the Can Spam Act came out, and so stuff started going to spam. And so a lot of our guys were sending out all these massive emails, and a lot of people just quit getting them, and they started complaining. And then so we just ended up basically shutting this thing down and just continuing on our way. We built up a big list, and we used that list. Well, come 2023, I'm sitting at Perry Belcher's AI Bot Summit in Vegas, and he's talking about using this was April of 2023. And he's talking about using AI to actually generate newsletters, and that this is some big opportunity, and you can crank out newsletters using AI. And I was like, yeah, I can see this. You could definitely do this, but they're going to be pieces of shit newsletters. And it turns out his theory was actually a piece of shit because you can do it, but they don't last. But you can use AI as a tool for sure and help you with it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring this back. And then you were doing a newsletter at the time, your Lunch with Norm newsletter.
I think there's a lot of people in the space that just had this newsletter, but nobody defined what it looked like. And yes. I want to thank you, by the way, for pulling me aside one day and saying, your newsletter is.
Well, I think I did that to a bunch of people.
Oh, no, you did that
at BTSS.
At BTSS. That was hilarious.
I had sponsors in the room, and I'm like, your newsletter is
caca.
And they're like, we just sponsor a lot, and you're just calling us out here. I was like, yeah, I'm calling you out. But yeah, so what happens, a lot of people have a promotional, I call them promotional emails. They call them newsletters. They still exist to this day. I get a ton of them from people in the Amazon space that we're in, some of the marketing people, newsletters. It'll say up at the top, the ones that always get me, it's like, the April newsletter or the May newsletter is here. I'm like, that's how they started off. The May newsletter is here. Or they started off with like, the weather is bright and balmy outside. I hope it's good in your neck of the woods. Some sort of, those are garbage. And they'll say newsletter, and you look at it. It's not a newsletter. It's a promotional email about their services. Even some of the biggest names in the Amazon space have really garbage.
The marketing space, Kev.
Newsletters and the marketing, and the digital marketing space too. But if you're not providing value, or someone doesn't have to click off to actually get the value, then you're not providing you're not really doing a newsletter. So I decided to start one, and I launched it in August of 2023 to the Amazon world. I did not. Some people just blast their newsletter to their entire email list. Anybody that's ever given them an email or bought something, they just blast it to them. I didn't do that. I made everybody opt in. And so I started, I think the first issue went out to like August 14th, 2023 to like 1,400 or 1,700 people, I think it was. And then for the next year, I just refined it. I tested different things. I tested, putting a story in. I tested different sections and games and different kinds of value, different links. And then I just basically grew it off referrals. So people that liked it would refer other people. And that worked really well. I incentivized that, got it up to about 10,000. And then last year, in August of last year, so not even a year ago, I started running Facebook ads. And now I'm doing some other additional stuff. And we're at 32,000 active people right now. And I've kicked off about 17,000 for not opening it. But the core thing about this is anybody can do this, no matter who's listening here, whether you're selling physical products, you have an agency, you're in some sort of marketing and consulting, you have a SaaS product. If you don't have a valuable added newsletter, you're missing a major opportunity.
Now, a quick word from our sponsor, Levanta. Hey, Kevin, tell us a little bit about it.
That's right, Amazon sellers. Do you want to skyrocket your sales and boost your organic rankings? Meet Levanta, Norm and I's secret weapon for driving high-quality external traffic straight to our Amazon storefronts using affiliate marketing. That's right. It's achieved through direct partnerships with leading media outlets like CNN, Wirecutter, and BuzzFeed, just to name a few, as well as top affiliates, influencers, bloggers, and media buyers, all in Levanta's marketplace, which is home to over 5,000 different creators that you get to choose from.
So are you ready to elevate your business? Visit get.levanta.io/misfits. That's get.levanta, LEVANTA.io/misfits, and book a call, and you'll get up to 20% off Levanta's gold plan today. That's get.levanta.io/misfits.
Now, does everybody read their email? No. You're going to get open rates, depending on a number of factors, between 25 and 50% typically. Some people may get a little bit higher than that, but usually it's a small list or a very targeted list to get higher numbers than that. But if you get above 10,000 subscribers and you're getting 40, 50% open rates, you're doing well. But the thing is, the newsletter that I've done, I think I've told you this, has given me more authority than anything I've ever done. I've had 220,000 people go through the Freedom Ticket course to sell on Amazon. I've been on, I've done 156 episodes. I just looked earlier, the AM PM podcast. You and I have done about 52 or 55 of this podcast. We've spoken on stages all over the world. We've done seminars and trainings, been guests on other podcasts, but I can tell you nothing has moved the needle more than doing the newsletter. And it's actually now turned into, like I said at the beginning of the show, last year I did over $250,000 in profit. This year I'll do over $500,000. And some of that's not counting some of the residual effects. It's hard to track of people buying a ticket to BDSS or whatever it may be. So I think anybody listening needs to actually think about actually creating a real newsletter. And I know when you were doing yours, your Lunch with Norm one, I basically, like you said, I told you it was crud. And you guys changed it up, and now it's really good. I mean, Kelsey, I know Kelsey does a lot of it, your son, and he's doing a good job with it. And what have you seen after starting the newsletter? How have you seen it affect what your business and what you're doing?
Well, first of all, I thought our newsletter originally was good. I thought we had some interesting content. And then you told me, I remember we were sitting down having a cigar, and I kind of got a little perturbed because I thought it was good. And then I said, okay, so you were telling me everybody that you kind of called out on stage, which I thought was hilarious, because they all thought they were having a great newsletter. And I listened to you and I said, you know what, Kev, I might not be number one, but I'm going to be number two. And what does it take to do that? And we were partnering on this. We were partnering in our company, and you sat down. And I remember you just said, look, you gave me a few points. I told Kels. And then eventually you spent some time with Kels. One of the things I decided, everybody's got to have a USP. And my USP was going to be a personal story followed up by a business, turning it into a business lesson. And then gamifying it a little bit. I have something called Find the Beard, where it's kind of like Find Waldo or Where's Waldo. And then we just go out and we find interesting information. Now, we've been able to grow this into last year, which was a six-figure business, not as much as you. We were just over, I think we got to about $125,000 in revenue last year. Just doing it right, giving the right exposure, having a great, now I know open rate is really hard to talk about, but our highest open rate was over 70%. Our lowest, I think it was 43%. And we're kind of maintaining, a mid-average. But the click-through rates, we're doing really good. They range from at low, 4 something, at a high, a 7.5, I think. So that's click-through rate.
Yeah.
So we're providing some really good options for the sponsors. We also provided values, my top 10 list for books, AI tools. We just didn't keep it to Amazon, although it was kind of an Amazon focused newsletter, but we asked people, what do they want? They wanted AI. They wanted education. They wanted all these different things, SOPs, action steps. And that's what we looked for. So at the end of the day, if I take a look at it, I'm finding the same thing. So I've got a bunch of different communities based off of Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm reaches a ton of people, the podcast. I have 3 sponsors and a banner listing of a bunch of different sponsors. And I would think that drove a lot of the leads. But guess what? The newsletter grew a ton of leads, similar to what you're saying. And because of this, and because we've built that really loyal community, and I think we should touch on that afterwards, but now you could change that into dedicated emails. And your open rate on the dedicated emails is incredible because people trust you and it's coming from you.
Yeah, a newsletter gives you permission to be in their inbox. When you first start sending it out, you're sending it out and people are like, oh, another email. But if you're delivering value, like both of our newsletters actually do, real value in there, and you engage them like you're doing with the stories, your personal stories, which are great. I did some of that in the beginning. I've shied away from it recently, just more of a space issue. And then I switched to branding a little bit. But that's a great personal brand for you. And like you do with the gamification, where you have the little picture and it's like find you in this maze of people sitting on the beach, 1,000 people sitting on the beach. Where's Norm? Where's the beer guy? Which is in theme with your brand, with the beard. So it's what I've seen is now people, they look forward to it and they're drinking their coffee in the morning, or maybe they don't read it that day. Maybe they save them up and read them on the weekend, or they do something like that. I'm even doing mine in podcast. I have a podcast version of mine right now. So my newsletter comes out on Mondays and Thursdays and at billiondollarsellers.com. And it comes out in the mornings. I would like to get them out a little bit earlier than I do, but I'm not able to because of this thing I do with a podcast. So I have a guy in the UK that every night. So I personally write my newsletter. This is not a VA doing it or later. I have a template. I'm able to do it in under 2 hours each one. If one's a little bit more detailed, or I'm writing something a little bit more, maybe a little bit over 2 hours, but I'm able to put them together. It wasn't that way in the beginning. It was 4 or 5 hours per each one in the beginning, but about 2 hours is what it takes me to put each one together. I've never missed. That's a key. It's consistency. So my trainer started one. You've never missed either. Right. And my trainer started one, and he's hit and miss. Our friend Elena sometimes doesn't come out. There are people like life gets in the way. And when you're media, that can't happen. When you're part of someone's life, you have to come out. So even if I'm at a BDSS in Iceland and I know I'm not going to have time to mess around and keep up with what the latest things are and publish that, I'll do a best of. I'll do a couple in advance, and they're like best ofs, because even a best of, I haven't really seen you do this yet, but even a best of is still, it's better than nothing. And the fact is, if you're only getting 50% of the people to open any given email, 40 to 50% of them haven't seen that stuff. So it's going to be new to a lot of them. A lot of them have forgotten about it, or they skimmed over it. And so it's still, nobody's complaining and saying, this is regurgitated, recycled stuff. And in today's AI world, I think you and I talked about this. One of the big advantages of putting out content like we're doing with the podcast, our individual podcast, this podcast, the training thing that we have under Dragonfish, used to be called Ascend. I can't remember the name of it now. The new name.
To tell you the truth,
whatever the new name is, and we had to change it because of trademark issues. It's coming out. It's launching soon. That's why it's not active right now. So I can't remember the exact name. But and then our newsletters is massive content. And in today's world with LLMs and everything, the content people have a major advantage. So you're producing this massive content. I even had my assistant, my VA that I have in Pakistan that does some stuff for me. I had him go find all the podcasts I've ever been on in the last 10 years or whatever, since 2016, whenever I came on my first podcast, and find them all and translate them all. And he's done the same thing for all these podcasts, all the AM PM podcasts I do. So it's creating massive content. But with that newsletter, you're getting permission to come every day. And then, like you said, you see what people are clicking on, what they're interested in, so you can double down on that. You can ask them too, but you can also double down on the things that they're clicking in. You can sell advertising spots. You can do affiliate commissions to make money out of the newsletter, which in some times can be real money. But where the big money's at is like exactly what you just said, is a dedicated email. So my newsletter comes on Mondays and Thursdays, and on Tuesdays and Wednesdays originally, and I just added Fridays as an option now too, even though it's not the best day. I'll send them a message to the newsletter subscriber list. It doesn't say BDSN in the subject line because that's what it always says for my newsletter, so you can quickly sort them or find them. But it'll be an email for a single topic. It's usually sometimes it's for us. We're promoting a webinar we're doing for Dragonfish. Sometimes it's an advertiser, and I charge right now $4,000 per email for that. And I sell out about a month and a half in advance on those. And so that's adds up to real money. I've had one advertiser, it's done so well for him, spend close to 80 grand in the last year just advertising, because it's done so well from him. And he knows that, every time he has an ad in the newsletter, maybe he gets 20, 30 clicks or 50 clicks or something. That's nothing great. But he knows long-term that branding is like Coca-Cola. He's top of mind.
Brand awareness.
As soon as someone needs him, he's going to be there and going to be the first one they think of. And that's what it does. And it's it gives you more authority. It leans into everything else that you do, whether you're selling courses. But as a product, even if you own doing products, you can sell your products off it. I mean, I sell my BDSS. I sell my virtual events. I sell my replays. I mean, replays to the event you came to in Iceland have done well over $100,000 just selling the replay. The cost to do that was $15,000 to bring the crew out and have them actually do that and edit it on the spot and do a live stream. And I just take the videos, I upload them to Vimeo for me. I didn't have to do anything, just put together the email and the links and send that out. And that's, if I didn't have that newsletter, a lot of those people would be ignoring my emails or they wouldn't be aware of it. And you're reaching into all these other people, and that's you can do that for any brand. But the thing is, you have to provide value and you have to be consistent. And that's where I think a lot of people have trouble. But with AI, there's ways you can't have AI do all the work, but AI can be a tool that you can utilize to summarize things or to do it in certain angles or to train it with your voice and help it write some of the stuff that or rewrite some of the stuff that you've written. There's lots of cool stuff that you can do when it comes to newsletters. So everybody, you agree. I mean, you've seen the power of it.
I've seen the power, and surprisingly, way over double, triple, quadruple over the podcast, which I was shocked at. And one of the other things we never talked about, and I think we have to talk about community. I think we have to talk about deliverability. But one of the things that I started doing recently, you did this right off the top. We took our time, and this was kind of a backseat. We didn't know what to promote, but we started doing referrals. And we've done that now for about 2 months. And have we got a ton of referrals that have come in? So we're giving away prompt books, we're giving away courses, we're giving away all sorts of different things. Matter of fact, this year, I think we have a virtual BDSS giveaway. The person gives away enough. But that's, if you have to be creative. Like, I'm trying to do it because I have the podcast, because I have the communities that I've built. I can go out there and try to promote it that way. Then I go out and go to people like you, and on Beehive, you can promote me. I think that's what you're doing, because we're getting a bunch of leads that come from you. I know that there's other newsletters out there. And then there's the whole referral network, which is working really well. I think we got a few hundred emails or subscribers just off of that this month.
Yeah, referrals. So there's different tools if you're going to do a newsletter. Some people use Kit, some people use Substack, you don't want to be using a general tool like MailChimp or Aweber to do a proper newsletter. The best tool, in my opinion, is Beehive, Beehive. It's spelled weird, Beehive.
HIIV. Yeah.
It was built for newsletters, and they have advertising built in where advertisers will come to you, and you can make $100, $200, $300 per one. You choose which ads you want, and you automatically insert them. It does all the tracking, helps you with all the writing. It's built to actually do proper newsletters, not email marketing, and it's really, really good. And one of the systems they have is a referral thing. And what Norm's talking about is you can add a little line of code, and it'll put a little box on there. You don't have, they'll say, hey, if you like this newsletter, you put some copy, whatever you want to say. If you like this, refer a friend and get rewards. And you can create like a little GIF that goes through this animated GIF of all these rewards. And where a lot of people mess up is they'll say, refer 5 people and get a coffee mug. Refer 10 people, get a T-shirt. And for me, I don't think that's valuable. Most people don't give a crap about your company logo on a coffee. They just don't. What they do, if your newsletter is for accountants, instead of a coffee mug with Kevin's Accountants Service on it, you should have a coffee mug that says some sort of slogan for accountant. I don't know. Accountants know their data. I don't know. Some sort of slogan that accountants identify with. It's a cute little slogan for them. Then they'll take that. And then the other mistake a lot of people make is they make the rewards too high. Most people don't know 5 people. Most people know, unless they're going to post it on their social media or somewhere. Most people know one person. Yep. So you have to have a quick win, something of value, like you're doing the prompts thing, and I do a 21 hacks deal. So just get them started, just one person, and then they get that, and they're like, that's pretty cool. Who else do I know? And they'll refer other people in the office, or they'll refer their partners, or they'll post it somewhere, and that's exactly how I grew from those 1,700 when I started to 10,000. And I still do it now, but I'm also doing a lot of outside advertising. And another thing that, like you just said, is inside Beehive, and there's other companies like Sparkloop that will do this too. I use both of them. And you can refer out. So I can refer to you. So when someone signs up for my newsletter, up pops a little pop-up on the confirmations page. It says, oh, by the way, you might also like Lunch with Norm. Do you want that? And you might also like Ritu's AI for e-commerce. Do you like that? And if they say yes, it automatically subscribes them to you. So you get a lead. Now, in our case, we're buddies, so I don't charge you for that. But in other cases,
well, how come I've been cutting you checks?
Oh, where are they been going? I haven't seen those.
Maybe it's going to the Coke Zeros. That's
where it's going. It's going to
the Mexican Coke Zeros.
Mexican Coke Zeros. But you can refer out, and you can get paid. So people will pay you, $1, $2, $3. It depends, for those. And so a lot of times, if you do this right, if I'm advertising, and I'm spending, say, $1 per lead in ads, and I can get $1 back from a Lunch with Norm, who, if you weren't my buddy, it would be paying me to do this. I can basically have this as a wash. And so I'm getting all my leads for free, and I can grow this thing, if you do it right, basically at a profit in a way.
Are you looking to quickly boost new Amazon product launches or scale up existing listings to reach first page positioning? The influencer platform Stack Influence can help.
That's right. Stack Influence pushes high volume external traffic sales straight to Amazon listings using micro influencers that you only have to pay with your products.
They've helped up-and-coming brands like Magic Spoon compete with Cheerios for top category positioning, while also helping Fortune 500 brands like Unilever launch their new products.
Right now is one of the best times to get started with Stack Influence. You can sign up at stackinfluence.com or click the link in this video down in the description or notes below and mention Misfits, that's MISFITS, to get 10% off your first campaign. stackinfluence.com. And so I make a little bit of profit on when I was doing Facebook ads. It was difficult. It was costing me, my best leads were $2.73 a piece. So if I got not everybody signs up for the newsletter suggested. So if up pops, let's just say you were paying me $1 and Ritu was paying me $1. Y'all pop up after that $2.73 cost per lead, and only 50% of the time do you take the offer. So basically, I'm getting $1 instead of $2, $1 of that back out of every lead. So it's cost me $1.73. Well, that cuts my advertising costs. But I'm doing stuff now with intent-based targeting where I'm popping up into the inbox. I'm using Inbox Mailer as one of their subsidiaries, and actually popping up into the inbox when someone's in their inbox, and I can target specific websites. So I can target in the Amazon space, I can target My Amazon Guy or PackView or Smart Scout or people that have been there, and these tools know who's been there by cookie trails. And when they're in their inbox, checking their email, it'll ping, ding, you've got mail, and a message will appear right at the top of their email stack, which means they're most likely to see it. It's not going to get lost in all their junk mail. And if they open that and click anything in there, they get added to my list. Those are costing me 73 cents a lead or 77 cents a lead right now, which is really, really good.
And so Kev,
yeah,
the question I think that a lot of people are saying is, who cares how many people you're getting? So why is it so important that you're adding subscribers?
So one is, it's the quality of subscribers matter too. So some of these guys on these referral things might refer you not so good subscribers. So like you mentioned earlier, open rates is a standard metric, but it's a hard metric to actually use, because on an Apple device with the OS, I think it's 14 or 15, which is a couple systems, a couple years ago, they made a change where any email shows as opened. So your open rates may show at 34%, let's say. But if 20% of your people are on using an iPad or an iPhone or their Mac computer to open that email, your open rate is a lot less because every one of them is shown as open. So what you want to go by is click rates. So when someone tells me they have a 70% open rate, I seriously doubt them. Unless their list is small. It's highly targeted. It's a really kick-ass subject line. They might hit that one time, but that means their list is small, or they got a lot of Apple people that they don't know that are on their list. A good target, you want to be above 30%. If you can get that 40 to 50% like you're doing and like I'm doing, then you're good. When I was smaller, under 10,000 people, and everybody was from referrals, those were much higher quality leads. Because you're referring, if you refer to someone, you're going to refer to someone that probably in the Amazon space.
Yep.
That's going to be a good lead. And so my open rates were consistently 50, 55, 60%. Now my open rates are anywhere, I've had a low of 32% recently, all the way up to, they're averaging in the low 40s now. But part of that's because I've grown and I have less quality leads, but that's okay. They filter themselves out. I delete those people, and I clean the list once a month to get rid of the people that haven't opened and clicked, because that affects, like you said, deliverability. And deliverability is the game. But the true advantage of having a newsletter is you control the messaging and you control the delivery to a point. Now, the ESPs, if you're not doing certain things right, your deliverability can be definitely affected. But if I post something on the Lunch with Norm Facebook group, and you've got, I don't know how many members you have, and you got 5,000 members in there, only about 30 of them are going to see it. And then if those 30 interacted, Facebook will show it to another, whatever the algorithm is, 50, 100, 200. If they continually interact, it'll keep spreading that out. But most posts go to darkness and they don't get seen. Versus an email, if you're sending twice a week like I'm doing, you're once a week on Mondays, I'm twice a week, and you're getting that open rate of 35, 40% and a click rate, like you said, of 4 to 7%, then you're reaching a lot of people. And they might just skim it, but you're reaching those people, which you could never, in my case, that means 10,000 people, if I'm getting just a 30% open rate on mine, which is higher, but at least 10,000 people are at least skimming every single email I sent. I don't get that on any social, unless it goes viral on a social post on LinkedIn or something, but I'm consistently getting that. And then, so what you want to pay attention to is the click rate. So you want to put stuff in there that encourages people to click. And that could be things as rate this issue. Did you like it? Good, bad, indifferent? Could it be clicking off to see the rest of the story? So you tease them and you give them, but you got to give them enough information where they don't have to click off. They're like, I got it. But you want to encourage them to click off too.
Even one of the things, Kev, that we do with the podcast is we'll put, Dan Kurtz, 4 reasons, blah, 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 blah. The first reason, the second reason, the third reason, and drop off at the fourth to get them to click over to hear the rest of the podcast.
That's really good. Yeah, you guys are doing a really good job on that to get them. But now we know you don't want them clicking to YouTube. So now we learned that at Elevate 360. Don't send outside traffic to YouTube. So now I saw in your recent one, Kelsey made the change, or maybe it's 2 issues ago. He made the change to be like, go find us on all your favorite platforms. Search for us on YouTube. So I noticed that. Yeah. I haven't made that switch yet in my newsletter, but it's coming. But yeah.
I was just going to say the other thing that we were having a cigar. I don't even know when it was. We have so many, but maybe it was out on your balcony. But you were telling me, and this was really cool. This is a game changer as well, and I hate that phrase, but Mark Don, who's been on this podcast, told you something about skimming. It's just, so what you've done is you've started to break up the newsletter and have it all over the place. I shouldn't say all over the place, but just mix it up a little bit. So you're not just skimming right to the end.
I had it modularized in the past. So if you knew like this section is the good tip, this section is the funny thing, this section is whatever, you could just skip to what you want. And something I do, I mean, you do it with your Where's Norm thing, but I have a trivia question at the top. It's called Ask Bezos. And it's usually, and a lot of people say they love that. They read that trivia question, but to get the answer, you got to scroll all the way to the bottom to get the answer. And that's very effective. And if you've noticed in my newsletter now, all the headlines, they alternate colors. So if you look at any of my newsletters headlines for a story, it'll be in blue and red. So certain words, like 2 or 3 words are in red, 2 or 3 words or whatever in the headline are in blue. That's for skimming. And then you'll see I'm putting little boxes around stuff to actually put into sections to make it digestible and easier to read or easier to skim through. Because there's some people out there, I had one guy at Market Masters tell me, it's a Canadian guy. Those Canadian guys are weird. No, they're actually cool guys. He said he actually prints it out and cuts it up and puts it into a binder by category. And then there's other people that I know that the guys from Selling from the Beach, they subscribe to like Retweets and Yours and Mine and a couple others. And any cool articles, they clip them and put them into like a Google database of all these like GPTs and stuff. Any GPT that's ever been in Retweets newsletter, for example. She's another one that's doing a good job. She's providing really good value in her newsletter. And I personally read about 30 a day, but I unsubscribe. A day. I go through about 30 a day.
No wonder you can't work on the other project.
That's about an hour. It's my chill time. Give me a Mexican Coke Zero.
All right.
With that nice little ice. I turn on some lounge music, and I sit there and I just go through them. And some of these are for our industry, for e-com.
Yeah.
Some of them are just general news or AI or whatever. So it gives me a good cross section, and I find content that way too. So, but that's a hobby, and it's keeping me informed. I just saw somebody. I think it was one of the guys from Shark Tank. He's Canadian, but he by way of
Robert
Drevnik. But he was saying that someone asked him, what do you see? You know a lot of billionaires. What do you see in these billionaires as the 3 most common characteristics? And one of them, he said, was extreme discipline. One of them, he said, was extreme knowledge on a specific thing. They know a lot about everything, but they're masters at one specific thing. And he said the other is a thirst for knowledge, where they're constantly reading, constantly keeping themselves up. So that's what I should be a billionaire then, because I have a thirst for knowledge. Norm, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Come on now, help me out. So that's where I get that. But I get content and ideas that way, and I'll mix things together. And I changed the subject earlier, but the other thing that I do is, and you might consider this with Lunch with Norm too, is I turn my newsletter into a podcast. I started talking about this earlier and I didn't finish. So I finish it on a Sunday night. I send it to a guy in the UK. He's 6 hours ahead of me. So while I'm sleeping, he's taking this, running it through an AI tool and some other stuff and tweaking it, changing some of the words a little bit. And he puts it in my voice. So I think he used 11 Labs or something to clone my voice. And it's about 10 to 12 minutes of me reading the newsletter. and he changes up. It's not word for word. He makes it flow. And so there's a link in every newsletter, and I'm about to put this on all the podcast platforms. I just haven't done it yet, but it's going to be on all the podcast platforms. So that'll be lead gen too. You'll find it on YouTube, or you'll find it on Spotify or Apple. And then, like, I didn't know he had a newsletter. What's this newsletter? Let me go see. I'll get you on the list. But a lot of people love that because they don't want to read everything, but they'll listen to it while they're on the train, or while they're at the gym, or while they're driving their car. And I have a lot of people comment about how much they like that. There's not thousands and thousands of people clicking that, but there's enough to where it's building a little core little group, and I'm experimenting with a couple of things there. And so that's something else. But one of the key things about a newsletter, like I was saying earlier, where you control the message, is you own the customer. If you're advertising on Facebook, or you're advertising on selling on Amazon, or Walmart, or some of these places, you don't have the customer data. You don't own that relationship. They do. You can extract that data in some cases, but with a newsletter, everything is under your control. Like when I'm at a show, people are like, Kevin, tell them about your $1 billion seller summit. And I know that if I start talking about that, they're like, as soon as I say it's $6,000 to come, they're going to be like, they're going to tune me out a lot of times. And I'm just wasting my breath. But if I say, don't worry, just get on my newsletter. It's free. Here, sign up. It's $1billiondollarsellers.com. Here's a QR code right here. I get them in that funnel. I've got you. And now, even if you say unsubscribe, I still can retarget you on Facebook or other places. Even if you say unsubscribe from the newsletter, I've got you. And so once I've got you, you're in my marketing funnel, in my marketing system, and I'm going to do everything I can to sell you something at some point. And that's the beauty of having a newsletter that's providing value, and they're giving me permission to do it. I'm not just blasting a promotional email, and that's the key. What are you doing from like product side? Are you doing anything yet on Lunch with Norm, like pitching any kind of products or anything? I know you're doing the advertising and the affiliate stuff, but are you doing any, like I pitch, the BSS events, and that's I guess technically a product. Are you doing anything there?
Yeah, we're not doing too much right now. One of the things that we do promote, and hopefully to help grow, is Dragonfish and Marketing Misfits. We're doing sponsorship, and that's about it. I don't have the events, so I'm not pushing that at all. Now, one of the things we are doing in the referral side is we're getting Honu involved. I'm trying to do more with the marketing content and press releases again. So that's something that we can push. But for the last, I don't know how long I've been doing this, a year and a half maybe, we've just been focusing on pure value, more value. And I think we can grow that next. I think with our size, I was talking to Kelsey today, and I think we might have hit 10,000 subscribers.
Oh, awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. So, awesome. Yeah. So we've been working hard at that. But you've got a much bigger subscriber base. So I think it's smart for you to do what you're doing, and especially with the events that you have. I don't have that. What I do push day in and day out is my personal brand. So people will see that I am an authority in all sorts of different spaces, and especially when you do the podcast and the newsletter. Well, even though you're interviewing Ryan Dice or whoever, but you become that expert even though you're doing the interview. Plus, everything that I'm doing, Kevin, I know this is something you're probably going to look into, but I link it to Google Knowledge Graph. So everything, every article, everything is being associated with me. And I think that helps me just grow who I am. So when we go and we do something together, it's going to just go out to that many more people. So that's what I'm doing. Personal branding.
Well, I think a lot of people listening to this, oh, this sounds good. Kevin, you and Norm are teaching people Amazon, doing this, your business, your B2B. and B2B newsletters do typically have a little bit higher value. You can charge more for things, but B2C can also work really well. So if you're listening to this and you're a brand, what I recommend is you don't do a brand newsletter. So if I'm Zoe's Pets, and that's the name of my brand, I'm not going to have a Zoe's Pets newsletter.
Right.
I'm going to have a newsletter in the say I specialize in dog toys. That's what I specialize in. I'm going to have a newsletter about dogs. And maybe it's sponsored by Zoe's Pets, and there's an occasional ad in there, occasional plug from Zoe's Pets, or there's a section about Zoe's Tip of the Week or something like that. So I get that branding in, but I'm going to make it more about the industry for several reasons. One is it makes it not feel as promotional and advertising and more general knowledge to an avatar. And then second, it allows me to advertise other people in there without potentially conflicts, where I can test as affiliate commissions, maybe products I'm thinking about selling or something else I'm thinking about doing. I can test that. I can get other people to come in and help subsidize it and pay for it as well, maybe pay for ads that don't compete directly with me. I can also build authority in the dog space and get people. A lot of times you'll get people willing to contribute content. I have a guy right now in Amazon. Every week he sends me an article and says, here's an article. If you want to publish this, I'll give you first rights. You publish this first. It's on AI stuff. And he doesn't ask for any money in return. He just wants, a credit, and it helps him build his authority and get the word out. You'll have people do that kind of stuff. Or if you're in the pet space, veterinarians or something, you can get them to do a little section about something, or trainers or whatever. You can get people to provide a lot of the content where you're not having to have a writer do all this stuff. What's up, everybody? Your good old buddies Norm and Kevin here, and I've got an Amazon creative team that I want to introduce you to.
That's right, Kevin. It's called the House of AMZ, and it's the leading provider in combining marketing and branding with laser focus on Amazon.
Hey, Norm, they do a lot of really cool stuff if you haven't seen what they do, like full listing graphics, premium A+ content, storefront design, branding, photography, renderings, packaging design, and a whole lot of other stuff that Amazon sellers need.
Yeah, and guess what? They have 9 years active in this space. So you can skip the guesswork, trust the experts. There's no fees. There's no retainers. You pay per project.
So if you want to take your product to the next level, check out House of AMZ. That's houseofamz.com. House of AMZ. You can do this, and with AI helping you rewrite stuff or helping you put 5 different articles together into one summary thing, you can do some pretty cool stuff and deliver something that people are going to start to follow and start to really enjoy. I mean, one of the things that, and you can even create awards in your industry. That's one of the things I've done with my newsletter is I have about once a month, I come out with something called the Dream 100. And so in the Amazon space, there's a lot of people that are trying to teach people how to sell on Amazon. They're kind of like scammers. They go on YouTube and they have a Lamborghini and they're talking about how easy it is to make money, and they're flashing money like Norm's just doing there, and they're full of BS. But so I recognize some of the legitimate people, and I have a list of 100 of them, and I've gotten through about 36 or so right now. And every month I list one of those people and I write a little bio on them, why I chose them. Norm is one of them, for example. And
oh, you can't see my
yeah,
I got my belt over there.
Belt over there. And then the next time they show up to a live event, I bring them up on stage, and like Norm was just talking about, he gets like this wrestling belt. It says Dream 100. It's this big old thing to recognize them. Those things cost me $200 or $300 a piece to have those things made. So I give that to them. But what that does is it creates branding, it creates awareness. Then I can spin that off. So now I do an event called Market Masters, and it's like, sit with a Dream 100, and people are like, "Oh, these are like the best people in the space that Kevin's recognized." And now people are coming to me like, "How do I get into that? What do I got to do to get into that?" It's become a thing, and it's so you can do things like that in any space. So whether you're a chef or you're a
pickleballer, look what Elaine did.
Or you're a pickleballer or you whatever, you can do this, and you can own the customer. And like what Norm said earlier is you got to take it beyond that, and you can use this and piggyback this into communities. whether that's a WhatsApp group like we both have for our newsletters, like my newsletter. To get into my new WhatsApp group for the newsletter, you have to refer at least 3 people to get in there, and then you get a special invitation to come in the WhatsApp group. So everybody in that WhatsApp group, there's hundreds of people in there, 300, I think, 400. They've referred at least 3 or more people. So those are diehard, loyal people that, and they get to be in that group and share tactics and stuff with each other. You can do that kind of thing. But the next thing is community, and where we're going with AI and everything, people are eager to have in real life stuff. So that's why I do my events. That's why Norm and I, for Marketing Misfits, we do the CMS, the Collective Mind Society trips. The next one's coming up in November in Tampa. You can go to collectivemindsociety.com, check that out. It's going to be a cigar smoking and whiskey drinking and hanging out with like-minded people over the weekend in Tampa, which is like the headquarters of cigars in the United States. A lot of people think it's Miami, but it's actually not. It's Tampa. We did one last year on the train ride across the Rocky Mountains of Canada. We did one at the F1 the year before. These are amazing events, but people want that kind of stuff, and they're willing to pay to have that. Experiences are one of the things that you can give people. And when you have a news like this, you can spin that kind of stuff off of it. For, if you're a dog, back on our dog example, you can have a dog training meetup, or segment your audience if you get big enough. This weekend we're doing a dachshunds in LA, dachshunds in Miami. You could ask for people on the newsletter to lead the meetup group or whatever, local cafe. You can do all kinds of cool stuff to engage the community and just help really extend your brand from a grassroots up effort. Now, this is not a get rich quick thing, but over time, you do this long enough and properly enough, in a few years, you're going to start seeing some momentum building, and you're going to start seeing a real brand being built that you might be able to exit or pass on to your kids one day, or have a nice lifestyle off of. And a newsletter, I believe, is the crux of that. But it has to be a newsletter done right.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Kevin. You can't just be a fly-by-night. And one of the things I want to add, you did this with the Dream 100, but Elena Serres has done this with a pickleball newsletter. And one of the things that I think is very important, she created her own association. Mm-hmm. I thought that was so cool. So all of a sudden you have an association, which gives you more credibility. And if you want to join it, you have to join this association, which then you'll get this email letter, and she gets the lead. It's very interesting what she's been able to do. And we're doing that. I don't know when that's going to happen, but we're putting together this cigar newsletter that we're going to try to create. And we think it's going to be one of the top newsletters out there.
Yeah, we got Norm and I are working on a cigar newsletter under the Dragonfish brand. We have a newsletter coming out for this podcast for Marketing Misfits this summer. You'll be able to get a weekly newsletter that will summarize some of what we talk about in the podcast, because not everybody has an hour to listen to the whole podcast. It'll also have some additional marketing tips and strategies in there as well, a couple other cool things. We also are doing this for other people. So if you're like, this newsletter thing sounds good, I just don't have time or the knowledge or want to do it, you can actually reach out to us at dragonfishci.com. You can reach out to us and we'll possibly be able to help you. We have a wait list right now, but we'll possibly be able to help you, with a newsletter if that's something that you're looking to do as well. We have setting up a whole team and systems to actually do that for people and to do it right and help you grow it. But newsletters, I think people look at email. Email is one of the oldest forms of internet communication, way before, and it still exists. And is there a lot of spam? Absolutely. There's a lot of garbage. And I wake up every morning to 200 messages, and I got to spend the first 10 minutes of the day deleting those. I know you have an EA that does a lot of that for you, Norm, but yeah, it's just like, come on, man, the email still works, and you can't be afraid. We know people, Norm and I know people that have 800,000 emails on their list, and they're afraid to email them. They're like, what do I do? What if someone says unsubscribe me? What if they don't like me? It's okay. We get people like both of our newsletters, it's unsubscribe, or they mark it as, you go in a beehive. And I just sent out 32,000 emails yesterday in my newsletter, and 4 people marked it as spam.
Oh, no.
I'm like, you sons of... but you're going to have people do that because it's easy up at the top, or they subscribe to it, then they just didn't realize, or they didn't have time for it or whatever. But you're going to have some of that happen, but the more you email, the more money you make. That's a lesson. I was just at the Driven Mastermind with Perry Belcher, and they had a guy from Angora. It's $1 billion email brand, email and physical newsletter brand, and the guy said that they email some of their people 20 times a day. I'm like, 20 times a day? I'd be unsubscribing pretty quick.
Yeah.
Said, yeah, a lot of people do, but the ones that don't are your customers. And he said, the more we email, the more money we make. And that's where you got to be not afraid to do that. Now, the downside to this is what Norm talked about earlier is on deliverability. If the Google and Yahoo and Gmail, which account for about 65% of all emails, deliver email boxes. So only about 35% are non-Gmail, Google or Yahoo addresses. So basically, whatever their rules are the rules you got to go by, and they're tightening everything up. They're putting newsletters now into a newsletter tab. They're moving stuff into promotion or spam. But there's ways that you can help mitigate that by, like, when you on your welcome email that you send out when someone subscribes to your newsletter, ask them to respond back and say, hey, in my case, I just say, respond back with a yes and where you're from. And that tells the ESPs, the email service providers, that, hey, this person actually wanted that email. They triggered a response back. It's a legit email. Don't put it in the spam folder, but more likely to put it in the inbox. So a little thing, not everybody does that. Only about 20% of the people will do that, but 20% helps. Yeah. And then you got to do stuff. There's rules now with DKIM and SPF. And these are special headers and DMARC. They're special, and EIMI, I think. Those are the four things you got to pay attention to in your DNS settings. And if those are not set right, especially if you're sending through a third party like Beehive, a lot of stuff will go to spam and won't get delivered. So there is a little technical side where you can do it yourself, or you can have someone come in. There's companies that do that fairly cheaply, and they'll make sure that stuff's all set up right. Or otherwise, you're going to go into the spam box. And then there's tools. Like, before I send every one of my newsletters, I send it through mail-tester.com and mailgenius.com. And what I do is I go to these websites. One of them's free. One of them is I pay for $30 a year or something. And it generates a random email address. So you just hit a button that says test email. It generates a random email address. I go into Beehive. I paste that into my preview link. And then I send that message to there. About a minute later, I can go and hit a button that says check the score. And it'll give me a spam score. And sometimes it'll say your spam, this is a 9.5 out of 10. That means I'm good to go. Other times they'll say this is an 8 out of 10. And some spam filters are going to flag it. And I go and I look through it. It'll say, oh, you're linking to a dead website. One of your links is not good. You made a typo or whatever. And so I'm like, oops, I did. I got to fix that. And other times they'll say, you're using the word free 7 times in the newsletter. Legitimately, you're not like, still some high, but it's legitimate. So I go in, I change the word free to complimentary or to something else, or reword it. So because those are the spam filters will just catch that, or the word guarantee or something like that. So I change that kind of stuff up and get that score up as high as I can. And then I send the message out. And so that helps with deliverability. So there's little things like that you do. But the other thing once you have an email address, at least in the United States, you can actually get the physical address and the phone number in a lot of cases of 60 to 80% of your customers, even if they didn't give it to you. There's big databases like Melissa Data and some of these that will actually you do appending services. So they will actually, they know, they have all these big databases that links all kinds of data from all over the internet and all kinds of services and magazines and everything together. And they can append an email address. They can take the Norm's email address at Lunch with Norm and figure out, well, he's in Canada, but if he's got a U.S. address, figure out what U.S. address is associated with that and match them up. And then you can use that to do direct mail if you want to, or SMS. You got SMS is a whole other animal, but you got to have permission on that. You can get some big fines, but you could use it to have people opt in to an SMS or something, or notify them by something if they've given you permission on SMS. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do, but you got to own that data and have that relationship. And newsletters, some people are like, well, why don't I just do a blog? Blogs are something that people have to go to read. A newsletter is push instead of pull. Blogs are pull marketing. You got to pull them in. Newsletters are push marketing. Now, blogs are great for like SEO. And the beautiful thing about AI search and all that kind of stuff. The good thing about Beehive is it converts every newsletter into a blog. And I'm starting to see now more and more links coming with a Google source attribution. And I'm like, Google, I'm not advertising on Google right now. It's because someone typed in some sort of keyword. My newsletter version of the blog version of my newsletter showed up in the search results, and they click through. And when they're looking at it in a web browser, as they scroll halfway down the page, and all of a sudden it'll pop up, hey, you like this? Subscribe. And so I'm getting subscribers. It's not a ton, but I'm getting subscribers off of that as well. So you can create this. The newsletter can be the hub of the flywheel that can do all this really cool stuff. And I think most people are just missing the mark on that.
Yeah. And there's a couple of other things. We don't have to get right into it, but we also have we point our domains instead of having lunchwithnorm.beehive.com and you're trying to tell that to people, which they'll spell wrong. We have a pointer. Yours is $1 billion Summit, right? $1
billion sellers.
Yeah, $1 billion sellers. And mine is lwn.news. A lot easier to do. But one of the things I want to really push is that don't try to do that unless you know how to do it, but don't try to do the deliverability yourself. You can go to Fiverr, you can go somewhere, and I used Fiverr Pro for this, found a really great guy, and he does all my deliverability for me. And then I test it once in a while. I go over to an app called Warmly, and it tells me what's getting through. What you have to do is you take 40 email addresses, you push it through, and then it tells you the deliverability on Google or Gmail, Google Suite, Outlook, and there's a couple of others. And you can see whether you're good or not. And that just, peace of mind, because if you're not getting into the inbox, then your deliverability or your newsletter is going to be, as good as as good as you get into that inbox.
Hey, Kevin King and Norm Farrar here. If you've been enjoying this episode of Marketing Misfits, thanks for listening this far. Continue listening. We got some more valuable stuff coming up. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast player, or if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, make sure you subscribe to our channel because you don't want to miss a single episode of the Marketing Misfits. Have you subscribed yet, Norm?
Well, this is an old guy alert. Should I subscribe to my own podcast?
Yeah, but what if you forget to show up one time and it's just me on here? You're not going to know what I say.
I'll buy you a beard and you can sit in my chair too. And you can go back and forth with one another. Yikes! But that being said, don't forget to subscribe, share it. Oh, and if you really like this content, somewhere up there's a banner. Click on it and you'll go to another episode of the Marketing Misfits.
Make sure you don't miss a single episode because you don't want to be like Norm.
Oh. So make sure you go either to Fiverr or wherever you want to go, but pay a few bucks. And it might cost you $100. It might cost you $200 to get everything set up. Some they'll do it for $50, but just check it out and get them to make sure that that deliverability is right. And when we're talking about this, it's not so much when you're going through a company like Beehive. You want to check it out, but when you're doing a dedicated email and you're using another domain, that's where it could come up, especially if you're using it there has been no warm-up emails. So you're just shooting it off to your list. If it's a cold list, not a cold list, but if you're just transferring it over, the chances of it being any good, you might have to warm that up a bit, warm up how you're sending out those dedicated emails.
Yeah, you don't want to just suddenly blast a whole bunch of emails to a list because that'll freak out the ESPs. They're like, what is this? Why is all this stuff coming from this one guy all of a sudden? And so that's what he means by warm up. You send 30 this day, then 50, then 100, then 150, then 500, and 1,000. and you warm it up, because along the way, people are opening and responding and clicking. And that tells the ESPs that, okay, you're legit, you're a legitimate emailer. This is stuff that people want to get. Another important point is that if you don't have anything to sell, a newsletter might not be for you right now, unless and by selling, that doesn't mean you have to have a physical product. It could be you're just trying to get speaking gigs on stage. People hire you for speaking gigs. It could be that, but you need to in order to monetize it, you can do it with affiliate commissions. You can do it with advertising, and those should cover your cost of doing it and maybe make you a small profit. But if you really want to make the big bucks, you need something to sell, some sort of a conference, a course, a physical product, consulting service, something along those lines. And that's where the biggest payday is going to come from on doing a newsletter. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. And there's newsletter conferences you can go to. There's 2 or 3 of them out there that has popped up. There's a guy named Matt McGarry that actually has a newsletter that comes out every Saturday about the newsletter industry with tips and strategies. And Growth Letter, I think it's at growthletter.com. You can get that. There's also a newsletter called Growth in Reverse by Chanel that actually dissects how did people grow their list. How did this guy get 1 million subscribers on his email list for whatever newsletter, and she'll dissect it, and she'll go back and look in the time machine online. She'll oh, look, in 2021, he started a LinkedIn profile. He had 16 followers. And then he started posting like this, and this. And then he'd use this strategy and this strategy. And by 2023, he had 110,000 followers. And then he started putting this newsletter plug in. This is how he did it. And then he was posting on X. And she'll break it all down. You can reverse engineer a lot of these strategies that people are using, and then maybe get ideas for your stuff. There's also newsletters like Who Sponsors What that will tell you who's running ads in different newsletters. There's a whole little cottage industry that's popped up where you can keep abreast of what's going on and in that space and get ideas for tools and tips and everything else. All right. It's been about an hour, Kev. It has. Love talking about this kind of stuff, but hopefully today we've given you a little bit of value. I even saw Norm taking a note over there a minute ago. I did. Norm, what are you writing down? You writing down your lunch? Connie, this is what Mail I need Genius. I'm not using Mail Genius. I was going to go check that out. See, and that's the thing. We go back and forth. There's times that you're using something that you have that I've never heard of, and vice versa. So. Exactly. I mean, that's the idea here. But hey, if you like this podcast, hopefully you've gotten something out of it today. Let us know by putting a comment down below. If you see a comment spot, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a little comment and let us know how we did. We take good ones, we take bad ones, we take critiques. I don't take bad ones. I'm sorry. I start to break down. Fetal position. Normal cry. If you give a bad one, normal cry. But you can tell me I've got stuff between my teeth. It's okay. Make sure you hit that subscribe button or forward this. If you like this, forward someone that might want to hear about what we talked about today or any of our previous topics. Forward this to them and hit that subscribe button too. And you can always find out more. See direct links to some of the back issues. Find out more about what's going on in the Marketing Misfits world, but at marketingmisfits.co, not .com, but .co, marketingmisfits.co. All right, that's it for today. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Take care. Bye.